is Mongolian Mindset, and today we got Christian with us, your neighborhood friendly ISTP. Today we're gonna be breaking down our 5 tips that are a lot more easier than the last video. This is more of the more mental. So these are 5 things that you can install in your life and will produce better results for you and take you from that well shit class to prodigy class over time. We're still working on that demigod. Demigod's the goal. Chris, you got anything you want to say before we start this?
Nah, man, let's just get into it right away. Let's go.
Okay, put the pressure on me, huh, bitch? Okay, guys. So it's the 5 things to remember that will take you from well shit to prodigy. Nobody wants to be down there at well shit, man. Nobody. You'll be a ISTP like Christian, and you'll be ass at using TI. Christian's got a good breakdown that he wants to give for these here. So we have the Mongolian mindset hierarchy. Chris, you want to break it down for us?
All right. So basically we got the hierarchy here, and we were detailing like what each category would entail for each person. Whale shit is basically a person whose weaknesses are so strong that it actually interferes with their strongest functions, so they can't operate to what their type to the level that their type should operate, right? So an example of this would be somebody who's strong at TI naturally, but because their TE is so weak, their TI basically you can't trust it. It's inaccurate. Now below average will be a little bit above that. Their weaknesses aren't so strong, so they're still able to be identified in their strengths or weaknesses according to their type, but they're still not operating to that regular level of their type. Average would be a stereotypical person of that type, where their weaknesses are clearly established and their strengths are clearly established, and they're very easily identifiable, right? Above average will be a little harder to type because now their weaknesses have been worked on. They have identified their weaknesses and has started to address them. So now their weaknesses are starting to be muddled. So it's slightly harder to type. Prodigy, now, once you get to prodigy, you're at the top 10% level. So at this point, you're very hard to type because your weaknesses have been identified and you've been working on them for so long that now they start to blend into your strengths. So when you can easily mistype this person because as you start to ask questions, they're actually good at the things they're supposed to be weak at, right?
Yeah.
Now, demigod is on a whole different level. Demigod is just the top 1%. This is a person who's been studying and working on their weaknesses for decades now. They're in the top 1% of their type. They're usually very successful and very hard to type because they can use a lot of different functions in different ways, even the ones they're supposed to be weak at. Okay?
Hey, that was perfect, bro. Perfect breakdown there, man. My boy just broke it down perfectly. You ain't gonna get no better than that, man. All right, so this is from my NI to you guys. This is something I learned very early on. The long road is actually the short road in disguise. And I got a cemetery up here for symbolism for you guys because there's a lot of motherfuckers who die trying to take that short road. The short road is filled with a lot of cemeteries. And the thing about the short road, you say, I'll get away with it today. And what that does is over time, that builds this mentality where you keep doing it. And, a quote from Jordan Peterson, in his life as being a clinical psychologist, nobody gets away with fucking anything. Okay. So it's only a matter of time before that bitch starts you back over to the starting point. And that's what you don't want to do in life. You don't want to be starting the fuck back over. Okay. You may have advanced in advance, and now you're starting to fuck back over. And if you had just took the long road, which is the short road in disguise, you'd be there already. There's been times where that has happened, and there's a mental thing I tell myself now. When I don't want to do the fucking long road, or I feel like I got this genius idea to take a shortcut, I say, hey, Mercer, slow your ass down. Slow your ass down. Take the fucking long road because you sleep easier at night. You don't be looking over your shoulder. For instance, there's a lot of people who take the short road in life. They start selling drugs and whatnot. They do that. They make a good amount of money. But 5 years from now, they're incarcerated for another 5 to 6 to 7 years, right? But if they had just went to school, or they had just learned a trade, or they had just started a business, where would they be? They wouldn't be doing that. Not to mention, every day they're looking over their shoulder. Do you want that to be you?
Mm-hmm.
Chris, what
Yeah.
do you got to say about that?
Another analogy would be somebody who's, getting started in stocks and they're investing long term. If they're investing into an index fund long term over a period of time, after 10 years, they got a bunch of money. But the person who's trying to do short trades here and there, you might win here and there. You might get away with it 2, 3, 4 trades, but that one bad trade can send you back all the way to the starting point. And there's analogies like that everywhere in life, including, like, for example, the gym. Like the people who get started in the gym and then they tell them like, hey, you got to wait 5 years to get your best physique, right? 5, 10 years maybe. And they're like, you know what? Screw that. I want it in 2 years. I'm going to get on roids. But then they mess their hormones up. And then eventually, because they didn't have the discipline to start with, they stop taking roids, they stop going to the gym, and they lose all the progress they made, that they go back to the starting point, or even behind that, because now their hormones are messed up. You could take it anywhere you want. The long road is the short road in disguise always.
Fucking perfect, perfect, perfect. So a lot of you guys that are out there that are pragmatic and you think, hey man, I could cut this here, cut that there. Just tell yourself, put it in your mental. When you start thinking that way, say, hey, stop that. I know the long road is the short road in disguise. Don't play with me. Okay. You won't see yourself at a cemetery. Trust me, I've learned the hard way. Chris is talking about the stocks. That shit happened to us. Okay. If we had just put our money in index funds, we'd be significantly richer right now. Okay. So it is what it is. That's life. Learn from it, you grow. Okay. So number 2 is the rule of one more by Ed Mylett. So this rule I quickly incorporated into my life, because the thing is when you start looking at things from a whole piece perspective, it's a lot harder. But if you chip it down into pieces, it's a lot easier for you to do. So what that looks like is sometimes you don't want to go to the gym, but you tell yourself, I'll go to the gym just one more day. You go to the gym, and then tomorrow you tell yourself that one more day, one more day. And in the book, Ed Mylett talks about his dad and how his dad got through his drug problem. Was he would tell himself one more day. He said, I don't know where I'm gonna be tomorrow. I may relapse, whatever, but I'm gonna be clean for one more day. And he kept stacking those one more days up, and he was clean for the rest of his life. And you can take this and implement that on anything in life, whether it be just going out and you're on a diet or something, and you just say, I'm gonna be on a diet for one more day, take it in pieces. Or you're at the gym and you're like, oh man, I got 10 reps in me, but you can always squeeze out one more. Tell yourself one more rep. That's easy to break down. Even when you're trying to talk to girls or anything like that, you say, I'm gonna go and approach one more girl. Mm-hmm. Everyone has the confidence to do it one more time. But if you say, man, I'm gonna approach 100 women, you ain't gonna approach one.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, when you think about a big goal, it could seem daunting. Like if you look at the mountain as a whole, right? You might say, oh, the mountain's too big, I can't climb it, right? But if you say, hey, I'm just gonna take the first step. I'm just gonna take the first step today, right? You take the first step. And you say, okay, one more, and then one more, and then one more. And then after a while, you notice, hey, I'm halfway up this mountain already. It seemed impossible, but I just took one more step, or I took the first step. That's why they call it actionable steps, right? I'm introducing the concept of actionable step. It's a thing that you could do right now to go towards your goal. That's an actionable step, right? So when you divide the big goal into actionable steps, it's a lot easier to digest, and it could seem a little less scary to get started or to progress in your goals.
Well said. Like I said, like the last thing, you really want to have this thing that plays in your head. Okay, you're down, you're out, you're tired, you don't want to do something, but you tell yourself one more, one more, one more YouTube video, one more day at the gym, one more sober day, one more whatever it is. You just tell yourself, you're like, man, I can't do it no more. But you can always tell yourself one more. So That's the power of that. And then you compound those all together, and 5 years from now, you're prodigy level.
Yeah, it's the same in investing too. Like, let's say you want to get it $1 million in the stock market. Now, $1 million in the stock market is a lot of money. It seems very daunting. It seems impossible, right? But if you divide it up, like, let's say, okay, I'm gonna put 100. I'm gonna put $100 this week. Then the next week, I'm gonna put another $100 the next week. Over time, you'll see you're moving towards the goal, and you'll get there eventually. But if you just think about the $1 million, you say, "Oh, I'll never have $1 million." Or a lot of people even say like, "Oh, I'll never be debt free," because they have a lot of debt. Let's say they have 70K in debt total. I'll never pay off 70K. Well, no, you'll never pay it off if you think about it in paying it in one go. But if you start, okay, I'm gonna put 500 this month, 500 this month, one more month, 500. Eventually you will get there. Mm-hmm. So try to divide your big goals into just smaller, actionable steps, and you'll get there.
Yeah. So we're on to the next one. Okay, this is the third one. It's from Robert Greene. I paraphrased it to where I think serve the king or queen inside yourself. And what that means is you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in the you that believes in you. Okay. I took that from what's the enemy? Gurren Lagann there. That's Gurren Lagann. But there was a time in my life where I wasn't the guy I am today, but I always had this sense of belief in myself. I never forget when I was in first grade and the teacher mispronounced my name. And I told myself when I was in first fucking grade, I swear to God, I said, before I die, people are going to be naming their kids after me. And I still believe that till this fucking day. I'm not fucking kidding. I am absolutely not fucking kidding. You better ask Christian. I've always been a crazy motherfucker. Christian, you remember that time I called the class peasants? Remember that shit?
Yeah. We're in front of English class doing a school project. The class started kind of, mocking our project. And then Mercer goes, Miss so-and-so, you better be glad I'm sitting up here talking to these peasants right in front of class. And I was shocked. I was like, God damn. But you know what? I felt the same way. I just didn't have the balls to say it. So you know what?
Yeah, that was you gotta have supreme confidence in yourself. That's number one. Everything starts from there. You can't be doubting yourself, because then you're fighting on another battlefield. Okay, you need to focus on what you're focused on. If you're fighting on too many battlefields, you're never gonna fucking win. You're like Adolf Hitler out here fighting fucking too many allies. Okay, but okay, so it's act like a king to be treated like one. That's from Robert Greene, Law 34. Act like royalty, people will treat you that way. Project divinity and supreme confidence that you're destined for great things. If you demand a high price, people will think you're worth it. You're accrue power and respect. Okay. A great excerpt from that book is on Christopher Columbus. And Christopher Columbus was the son of a cheese vendor, but he adopted a mentality and presence that convinced people that he was descendant of royalty. Okay. And the thing is, when he wanted to do the exploration with Queen Elizabeth and other monarchs, they actually believed he was one. Okay. They believed that he was somebody great. But this guy was somebody, what they say, didn't really know what he was doing. Like when he was sailing, he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He didn't know how to navigate. But the thing about him is he showed supreme confidence, even to the point that he went to them and he told them that he wanted to be Grand Admiral of the Oceanic Sea. He wanted the position of viceroy over all territories he discovered, and 10% of the proceeds from the lands would be his. Okay, the thing about that, Christopher Columbus got all of those, but he didn't get the 10% proceeds. If he had did that, his family would be the richest family in the world to this day, right now. Okay, but he did not get that. They did not give him that. But you're talking about a guy who was a fucking cheese vendor who's able to pull these moves. You can see that this guy is probably a strong NI user, okay, because he has supreme confidence in himself. Christian, you got anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I can say, it might seem like for example, if you don't have a lot of confidence, you might say, well, if I don't have confidence, how can I project dignity and confidence, right? Because confidence a lot of times comes from the external. You know, it's like once you prove to yourself that you could do something, then you're confident about it. But before then, you really truthfully in your core are not confident because you've never done it, right? So what I can say is for people who haven't achieved a lot and are kind of wondering, well, how do I project this confidence when I really haven't done much? It starts off really simple, like just literally stand up straight and take up the amount of space that you want to take up, because you deserve to take up space. You deserve to stand up straight. And just start with that simple concept, and everything else will fall in line. Because, for example, like I remember like when I was in high school, you know, years and years ago, Mercer used to say, like, "Oh, Christian, why are you walking with your chest up?" or whatever. I remember he used to say that. You remember that?
Yeah, he used to walk like this is
Right.
before we were big guys. This is before we were like big guys.
I weighed 130 pounds back then, and I hadn't achieved anything in life. I was in high school, but I walked with my chest up and my head high because I was projecting dignity and confidence. You know what I'm saying? And some people might say, like, oh, you're doing that because you're insecure. It's like, no, you affect your reality by the way that you like take up space, literally, like the way, just like Robert Greene is saying, you project dignity and confidence, and good things will come to you. So that's one simple way for anybody who's just getting started to do it, is just literally fix your posture, stand up straight, you know, take up the necessary space that you want, and you know, that's how you get started pretty
I
much.
mean, another thing I would say is like if you're struggling with it, like visualize yourself with robes on. Like I would literally visualize myself with robes on. I would visualize myself with like robes or like a crown on, shit like that. Like I would literally visualize that shit. Like, and I grew up poor as fuck, but that's just who I am. Like I could just always visualize. I never ever like felt like I wasn't somebody like great or something. But what you can do is just visualize it. Like start slow, you know, just start like visualizing yourself of somebody of power, somebody who's important. Okay. Like I said, serve the king inside of you. Okay. Don't
Another
let people get over on that person.
another tip I could give you is like, one thing that always helped me is that I always felt destined for things. Like in a way, my mentality was, even if I'm not there right now, I'm gonna treat myself as if I'm destined for that conclusion, right? So for example, when I graduated from college, um, we went to a bar and we didn't have any money, right? Because I had just started working, so I didn't have any money, and I went to a bar and I tried to pay with my card, and basically I didn't have enough funds to pay for the drinks because there was a minimum. Like I was completely broke, and Mercer was like, "God damn it! Like I hate us being broke. Uh, this is some bullshit." And I said, "Mercer, don't worry, because after this week, this will never happen again," right? Because I had just started working. I knew I was going to get paid that next week. Now, what I was going to get paid wasn't a lot of money. At the time, I was making like $20 an hour or whatever, right? But I knew that eventually I would make more, right? So I'm already treating myself as the person who's going to make more, not the person who's making $20 an hour. So the $20 an hour isn't what fed my ego and made me feel powerful. Is the fact that I had started my process already. Like I was on the path. And because I'm on the path, I know I'm gonna get to the finish line. Therefore, I'm gonna treat myself as the person who already got to the finish line, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, think about that. That could help
Hey,
you out as
think
well.
about do whatever you have to do. I remember Donald Trump talked about one of his friends who was fucking poor, but he always flew first class. And then he eventually became very rich. But some people need those things like that, and it works for them. So whatever you got to do. Some people, go to the store and they always got to have lobster. If you got to have lobster, you it's almost like changing your brain almost to like, I'm going to be there, so I'm going to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to figure it out because I want to be there. But yeah.
So some people might call it delusion.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's always delusion until you achieve it and it becomes reality. And then it's not delusion anymore. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
sometimes you gotta be a little delusional. It's fine.
Yeah. Believe in you, man. All right. So this one is from Arnold. Have a clear vision of where you want to go and set deadlines. Okay. This is very powerful. I feel like some people are better at that than others. I'm very good at this. This is my strength. This is my territory here. Like I said earlier, even when I was a kid, fucking poor, Section 8 homie, food stamps, I still visualize myself as somebody great, some emperor. I never, ever visualize myself as someone poor, to the point that even though I was poor as shit, my friends thought I was rich. It was crazy. But let's get in this. When your vision is powerful enough, everything falls into place. How you live, your life, your workout, what friends you choose to hang out with, how you eat, what you do for fun. Vision is purpose. And when your purpose is clear, so as your choices, vision creates faith, and faith creates willpower. With faith, there's no anxiety, no doubt, just absolute confidence. Like we say, I have an analogy that everybody has enough gas in their car to get from point A to point B. Okay? Everybody. But if you go start drifting around, you'll never get to point B. Okay? Some people have enough gas that they can drift around and get to point B, but most people, if you just set a clear goal of where you want to be, you'll get there. If you drift around, you may never get there. You can have the best car in the world, you can have a plane, you can have whatever the fuck you want to, but if you start going everywhere, you'll never fucking get there. Okay? And another thing from Arnold is I can zero in on a vision of where I want to be in the future. I can see it so clearly in front of me when I daydream, it's almost a reality. Then I get this easy feeling and I just don't have to be uptight to get there because I already feel like I'm there. That is just a matter of time. That's kind of like what I was talking about with the roads and shit like that. I can just visualize it. It's just there for me. I never ever thought when I was a kid that I wasn't going to be successful. I thought never crossed my mind. But what you can take from this, I know not everyone is very strong in I like myself, but what you can do is little small things. Okay, like a small thing that I do is a lot of times when I go to the gym, the only person that I play is Arnold Schwarzenegger, back to back to back to back to back, every fucking day that I step into the gym. And you can say, Mercer, you know what? That's fucking boring, tedious. You don't want to hear it, but it sets a clear vision in my brain of where the fuck I want to be. Okay, and it always gives me that motivation. I could be on fucking zero gas, and I start playing that Arnold, and I'm like, man, I got a fucking beast today. I'm slack, and like I'm not doing enough. But that's like a little small thing you do. Arnold talks about putting like magazines up of like who you want to be or like where you want to be, like magazine pictures all over your room. Reading something or something every day. Maybe you are saying it at a certain time every day, retelling the story to yourself, but that keeps you on that path. And you have to set a deadline. Okay, things don't happen unless you set a fucking deadline. If you say, okay, Christian says, I want to lose 10 pounds, you have to set a fucking deadline. Christian says, by fucking January 1st, I'm losing 10 pounds. That's a deadline. That becomes reality now. Because now he knows the deadline and he knows what he has to do. So he doesn't just go to the gym one day and say, I feel tired, I feel whatever. He knows he has a fucking deadline. So set clear deadlines. Chris, you got anything?
Yeah, I feel like this goes back to what I said in the last slide about feeling like you're destined for things. it's like, just like he said, Arnold Schwarzenegger said, he said, I already feel like I'm there. It's just a matter of time. That's exactly how I felt, you know, when I first started my career, let's say, or even as a kid. Like, you know, I went through hardships as a kid, but I know like a lot of people in this generation, this new generation, they like let themselves be kind of depressed by those hardships, let's say. But I never got to the point of ever being depressed because of my hardships, because I always knew there were steps in a long path towards success. And I always knew that I was going to get there. You know, just like Mercer said, like I always felt like I was going to be successful when I was older, no matter what was happening on now, right? And that gives you ultimate willpower to keep going, like no matter what happens. You know, even through college, uh, you know, I went through hardships, I failed classes or whatever, and like let's say my parents were worried about it, but honestly, if I'm 100% honest, I was never worried, like not even through that, because I always knew I was just destined for success no matter what, you know, like no matter what happens. So it's like a strong it's like an engine that just keeps on going when you have a vision of where you're going. Now, if you don't have a vision of where you're going,
You just drift around.
when shit happens to you, you get defeated because you're like, oh, like shit's happening to me, so I must be shit. It's like no. When you have a vision of a better future that you know you're destined for, you'll keep going no matter what. So that's
Mhm.
how strong it is. That's what I think what Arnold is talking about here.
Yeah, yeah. He talks about it in his book Useful. Highly recommend
Also,
it.
another thing, when you have a clear vision of what you're trying to achieve, like Mercer said, like you have gas to get there, but if you drift around, you won't get there. That happens to a lot of people. Like, for
Hmm.
example, there's some people that want to be really good with women, right? And they think that the way to be good with women is to make a lot of money. So they put all their skill points, experience, everything into making money. They make a bunch of money, but they still don't know anything about women. That's
Like,
somebody who lost vision of what they really wanted. What they really wanted was to be good with women, but they got good at making money and they're still not good with women, right? They didn't get to point B. They got lost somewhere in point C. You know what I mean? So I think it's really powerful to really set your vision on what you really want and go for it. You
hmm
know, straight line. Yeah.
straight line. Yeah, yeah. Powerful, man. Um, like I said, you have to visualize it. Like, and there's a lot of people that don't have strong NI or things like that, so it may be a lot harder for them. So they may have to put up posters or keep reminding themselves. Um, but like somebody like myself, it's like a burning desire. It's like it just happens. It's just gonna happen. Like I'd rather die for it. You know, I'd rather like die for it. You know, like it's just gonna happen. It's either I'm gonna die or it's gonna happen. That's just how I see it. Um, but that's how it's always been for me. But like I said, if you don't have it like that, then you need to set up little things like you read something every day, or you recant things back to yourself, or you put up magazines, or you, like I said, like little small things like that to remind you about your vision. Because
Or even have friends that keep you accountable to your vision.
yeah,
You know, like if you tell your friends your vision and they're good friends, when you get off path, they'll tell you like, Christian, you fucking up. Like you ain't doing what you said you were gonna do. Now, if you got some weak ass friends, yes, man, or whatever, they won't tell you shit. But if you are genuine 100% with each other, say, hey, you fucking up. You ain't supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be doing this that you said you were gonna do. It's like, oh shit, all right. And then you correct course. You know what I mean?
and the final point, I know this is gonna burn a lot of INTJ's ass. Okay, do not blame other people. Okay, straight up, there's absolutely no growth in blaming someone else. Absolutely no growth. If you blame somebody else, what do you need to work on? If you blame somebody else, save face, like we keep going back to this. It's like the small fucking things that separate you over time from somebody else. If I blame you, if I blame Christian for something, then that means I don't have to take accountability for that. And if I don't take accountability from that, that means I don't grow. And then if I don't grow, then that means I have nothing over time. I'm going to be the same person I am today 5 years from now. I don't want that. Okay. So, I mean, it's pretty common sense here. But I know there's a lot of people, especially myself. When I was younger, I used to blame people all the time. Me and Christian would lose or some shit. I'd be quick to look at him like, God damn it, Christian, or whatever. So I'm talking from a person from experience of loving to blame people. But now I've really been working. I've been working on just no matter what, I always just change my mentality of to what could I have done? Mm-hmm. What could I have done? And that instills growth in you as a person. To the point to you start analyzing things and you're like, okay, in my head, I start playing shit around like a chess piece. And I'm like, oh, that was the path I should have taken. Now, if that happens again, that's the path I'm going to take. Mm-hmm. Those little things over time add up. So blaming others have long-term consequences on life and personality. One is the personal growth. Like when you're out, that's a full-time job. Like saving face and blaming others, like that's a full-time job. Just to like protect your ego. But it also shuts down what others have to offer to you, like lessons and growth. It also takes away your power on things. So what happens with that is if you blame others, then you are giving up your own power and autonomy. They have the reins. Instead of that, you could have said, okay, what could I have done? Okay, that's more the mindset. Also, your empathy. If you use blame to avoid accountability, you also avoid speaking truthfully about how you feel and accepting and listening to how others feels. Constantly sidestepping this powerful, vulnerable process of negotiating and communicating means you are not likely to develop empathy for others. Okay, obviously. Okay, so you INTJs, fucking listen up, motherfuckers. Also, healthy relationships. Like, no one wants to be around somebody who's blaming people all the time. You're going to isolate your fucking self and no one's going to want to be around you. Like, straight up. It is what it is. No one wants to be around somebody who's always blaming somebody else because every time they go around you, they're going to feel as lesser or devalued. You don't want that because I've told you guys, one person, if you're going on a single mission, the team will beat you every time. A good team will beat you every fucking time. Maybe they may lap you 6 or 7, 8, 9, 10 times, driving around you, laughing at you, you know. And like another thing is when you start blaming other people, people mirror that, and then they start blaming other people. Like your children can learn that from you, and then that can go outwardly. And you don't want your kids to be people like that because you're gonna have to deal with them as adults. So, Christian, what do you have to say?
I would say blaming other people hasn't really been a common problem in my life because I tend to be very individualistic. You know, I tend to be kind of to myself, working by myself.
That's bullshit. When we used to play Apex and we used to lose at the end of the game, bro, you always blame me.
Well,
this motherfucker blamed me so much I quit playing that fucking game.
Well, that's a game. We're talking about life, but in a competitive scenario, I tend to like do or play sports or that were individualistic, like wrestling, martial arts. It's kind of by yourself, you know. It's all up to you, kind of thing, right? Now, in a team setting, like let's say work project or even a competitive environment, if you're gonna blame anybody, you should blame yourself. Like, let's say if you're in a position of power and you put them in a friend or a coworker in a position to lose, it's actually your fault because you put them in that position in the first place. So I guess my advice would be, like Marcel said, frame it in a way where it's like, what could I have done differently? Why didn't I kind of see this weakness in this person? Like, let's say, you know, let's say I have a friend and he's good at being social, and I put him in an introverted situation. That's my fault. You know, I didn't recognize his strengths and weaknesses and kind of put him in a position to win. So always take accountability on what you could have done differently. That's gonna serve you a lot better than blaming others.
Mm-hmm. And this can also help you identify people you don't need to be around. Motherfucker always blame you for something, bro. Don't you ain't got to deal with that. You ain't got to be around that person because that person just lowering you. And like we said in the earlier slides, always serve the king or queen inside yourself. Okay, you can't be having people devalue you or lowering you all the time. Okay, one time's cool, two times, buddy, you're pushing it. Three times, we ain't talking no more. Okay, it's just
Yeah,
that fucking simple. So
yeah,
this
because
could also help you guys get out of like relationships or
toxic
friendships where you're always getting blamed.
relationships. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because sometimes, as much as you want to take accountability, sometimes some people are negative in your life. Sometimes they do deserve scrutiny. And like Mercer said, like if it's a repeated thing where they're putting you in bad positions, it probably serves you better to not interact with them. Like for example, like if you're going out with a group of friends and this one person is always getting you into fights and shit, it kind of serves you to kind of not see that person anymore, or else he's gonna get you arrested one day. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
sometimes it serves you to really evaluate other people, but then always take it back to what could I do about it. For example, in that case, if one of your friends is putting you in negative situations all the time, what you could do about it is just distance yourself from that person, so you don't get affected.
Mm-hmm.
Always take it back to an action, not just blaming, right? It's you're identifying the issue and then you're acting on it in some kind of way. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this slide says up there, his fault, her fault, their fault, not me. And with that mindset, you'll never actually grow. You'll be the same person you'll be today, 5 years from now. Okay. If you want to get to that prodigy or even higher demigod level, you need as much growth as you can get. The more growth you can get, the faster you get there. And everybody know you're not gonna go from above average to average. I mean, average to prodigy in one day. But how can you make that faster? Okay. So these are the things we got here. And we're always going to leave you guys off with the Mongolian mindset. And like we said, guys, we are the herd. If you talk shit about one of us, you talking shit to all of us. Like we say, people are one, we are many. Okay, that means I have all my friends' backs. I have everybody in the group's back. And the group keeps me accountable. They keep, other people accountable. I'm learning new things. I'm teaching people new things. I'm going outside my comfort zone. There's a lot of things I've been, pushed to do here, and that's because of the herd here. And you guys are great. And Chris, you got any last things you want to say?
No, man, it's been great addressing you guys. Mercer, it's always nice to do a video with you. And let's keep growing.